Welcome to the GHT Overland podcast, where we visit with overland travelers and explorers around the globe, learning from their experiences and enjoying their stories. We are Chris and Lisa. However, today it's just me. We are from a little city called Washougal in Washington State, known as the entrance to the Columbia River Gorge. Now, as you know, we normally are interviewing overlanders. Today, we are going to gear down and chat with Ashley from Gaia GPS. Ashley is the operations manager at Gaia as part of their adventure support team. In 2015, Ashley hiked the Appalachian Trail from Georgia to Maine, which is just a fun, cool fact. So, without further ado, welcome to the podcast, Ashley.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our pleasure, and we're humbled that you're with us today. So fill us in on any blanks, along with a little bit about you and your role with Gaia GPS.
Well, I've been working at Gaia GPS for about 3 years now. I joined as part of the communications team, answering customer support emails. Now I do a little bit of management. I still work on customer service, and I do some marketing and a little bit of programming for our website too.
Okay, very good. Now, obviously, mapping is important both for hiking and overlanders, right? Sometimes we might be looking for a specific place to go or a good place to set up camp or just planning a route to minimize the need to turn around or even estimating mileage for fuel needs. How do you see that Gaia GPS will help with these needs as overlanders?
Well, Gaia GPS was originally built for planning trips. The two founders were on a backpacking trip, and they had a really hard time planning and getting all the information they needed for the trail that they wanted to hike on. So that was the whole original idea, was to be able to plan a trip really well from start to finish. So a lot of these trip planning features that are baked into the app translate perfectly over to the overlanding world. You can make a route ahead of time before you leave. You can choose between a ton of different maps that have a lot of like old USGS roads on them. And it saves a lot of time. We have this awesome feature where if you're making a route, it actually snaps right to the trail you're on. So it saves a ton of time when you're used to planning a route manually, point by point.
Yeah, and I played around with that a little bit because I'm used to using it for hiking myself, and I hadn't used the routes, and that is super cool.
It's an awesome feature. It's incredibly popular.
Yeah, I can imagine. So tell us about Gaia's newest app release and how it's different from the past version.
So in May of 2017, we released this huge update for our iOS app. And basically, we ripped out the entire guts of the existing app and replaced it with this mapping engine, really, that made the maps faster and just better overall. And it's a completely different experience. We also brought in a full-time designer that helped us redesign the whole user interface of the app. So it looked a lot different, and it's a lot easier to use. It's way more user-friendly. And a lot easier to like plan your trips and then organize all of your trips really well.
Okay, cool. And so I understand this is both available for Apple users on the iOS system, and also equally the new version is available for the Android users, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's just in December that the Android app was updated. So now both versions of the app look exactly the same. I know a lot of people use their accounts on more than one device, sometimes, an Apple and an Android. And so they can use their same account on both of those.
Yeah, and that is a really good point. And one of the things I've always enjoyed about Gaia is I can do things either on the web, I can do it on my tablet, I can do it on my phone. It really doesn't matter because they all sync together.
Mm-hmm.
So if I plan a route on the website and grab either my phone or the tablet, everything is there. That is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we don't limit the amount of devices you can use. You could really have, 5 different tablets if that's what you wanted.
And thank you for that, because I have quite a few. So that's cool. Now, I also like the ability to print maps. And Gaia, I don't know if that's part of the new build, because I don't remember being able to do that before, but being able to print those is really great. So what kind of details can you give us on printing maps and how we do that?
So printing's available at basically, if you have a membership with us, any sort of paid membership, you can print maps from the website. So our website's GaiaGPS.com, and we have a big map page there, which is like kind of the center of all of your stuff. It'll show your tracks and your waypoints and stuff, and you can add grid overlays. You can add a compass rose to it, and you can kind of customize what you're looking at and then go to print it out. And you could either print it or save it as a PDF, whatever works for you, so that you can have your same exact map that you're seeing in the app in your hand as a backup.
Okay, perfect. What details will be printed on that map?
So you can print any of the maps in our entire catalog. So you can print with topographic maps, you can print satellite, you can add overlays. If you have our premium membership, you get a lot of cool overlays like motor vehicle use maps, public and private lands, and those all can be overlaid and printed out as well.
Okay. And can you give us a brief overview on creating routes in Gaia, and is that available only through the website, or can I also do that on my phone or my tablet?
You can create a route on any of your devices.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And it's like I was saying earlier, it's really easy to use on all 3 platforms. It will snap to the route that you're working on. So basically, if you're using our proprietary map, for example, it's called Gaia Topo. If you see the trail on there, you can make a route right along it in like 2 taps, and it's done, and it snaps right to the trail for you. If you don't like that, you can also select a straight line mode. So if you want to get it to go exactly where you're trying to go, you can do that too. So there's a couple different modes you can switch to. There's hiking, driving, biking, and straight line.
Okay, perfect. And how does it choose what route it's going to take? Is it just taking the shortest route based on either a hiking trail or a road?
Sure, and it depends a little bit on the mode that you're in too. But if you're in an area that's really dense with trails and stuff, it just takes a few extra clicks to let it know which direction you really want to go.
Yeah, and I noticed you can also, if it selects a route, but you want to take a different route, you can keep pulling it up onto the road you want to go onto.
Right.
And then eventually it will sync all that up.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, perfect. Now, I personally appreciate the amount of details built into the app, like trip stats with mileage, elevation, but also the amount of different map overlays is amazingly helpful. How many different map sources are available for users? And maybe you want to split that up with if you have the paid version.
Sure. Yeah. So at the free level, everybody gets access to that proprietary map, Gaia Topo. It's based on OpenStreetMap, which is a constantly updated, openly editable type of map. So the Topo map is really up to date. It's really crisp. It's mobile optimized, so it's really great starter map. Once you sign up for a membership, you get access to over 50 maps. I think the last time I counted, it was 55 different map sources that you can use, a lot of them with international coverage. So that means all over the world. And then at the premium membership level, we have more than 250 maps at this point that you can get access to.
Okay, so I've got 250 different layers that I can choose from if I'm at the premium level.
Yeah.
Right, and we'll talk about those different levels in just a bit. But that is super helpful. I've used that so many times, especially with my work in search and rescue. We'll be somewhere and we can't find the trail on one map, and I can start scrolling through many different maps and usually find where all those different trails are. So that is super helpful for overlanders to be able to plan those routes, make sure that the maps show the roads that you need to go on, and download those on your device whether that be a tablet or a phone. And then you've got all that stuff. You don't even need to be in cell coverage area.
Right. Yeah. It's all there for you. Your routes, your points, whatever you made, and your maps. I have a couple go-to maps that I usually use when I'm going out for a quick trip. Because you mentioned using multiple maps at once. I almost always bring Gaia Topo.
Yep.
And then usually like to download USGS Topo. That always has a few little hidden, forgotten roads or points on it that you can kind of help judge where you're at. And then usually I'll grab a satellite map too.
Now, the ability to layer the maps with not only the topo and the street maps, but one thing I was thinking about a few days ago, and I don't know how many people are aware that you've got this in there, but you've got an aviation layer. And I know we're talking about overlanding, but I had saw somebody had posted on Facebook, hey, did you know you could do this on Gaia, related to wanting to get a lot of drone footage for what they're doing. So I think that was super great. I actually wrote a book on using drones with emergency response about a year ago. So thank you to Gaia for putting that on there. That is very, very helpful to do. And for anybody that is taking footage with a drone, that making sure that you know the airspace you're in is just as important as making sure when you're driving that you're on public land and not trespassing on private property, right? So you've also got some layers in there for us to be able to tell, am I going to be traveling over some private land if I go down this little path that goes through the field?
Yes, totally correct. Yeah, and that's a really interesting use case. I had never considered that people flying drones would have to worry about that kind of thing. So I've met a lot of pilots that are using those map layers, and we discussed how useful they are, but I never really considered that anybody would have a use for them outside of that.
Yes, they're very helpful. You can get them other places, but I find it really helpful to have it all in the same app that I'm using. So yeah, they work really well. Now, what membership level do we need to be at to have access to both the public land layer and the U.S. private land layer?
Got it. Yeah, those both are available at the premium membership level. They qualify as an overlay, which is kind of like a map with a transparent background. So
okay.
At the premium level, you also get this ability to stack different map layers on top of each other. So these maps kind of work best with that feature. And so they kind of fit really well in this premium level. So basically what you can do is, for example, the public lands overlay is basically just boundary lines in a bright orange. And you can put that over satellite imagery. You could put it over the aviation maps. You could put it on a topo map, whatever you prefer, and see the property boundaries on top of that map.
Okay, very good. And I noticed on those with the different colors, where do we find the key so we know what those colors are representing? So whether it's pink or orange.
Yeah, we have a help.guidegps.com is our help center. We have a lot of articles on there, and one specifically talking about map legends. And we've listed pretty much all of our maps legends on that article there. And you can find the private land and public land overlay legends there as well.
Okay, so probably pretty smart for somebody to go and print that so they have it with them, unless they've got a really good memory to remember what those colors are representing.
Sure. On the public land overlay, I do find myself trying to remember the colors as well. So that one would that one would definitely be helpful to have.
Okay, good. So tell us the difference, if there's anything we've missed, between the free version of the app and the paid version, along with what those costs are going to be.
Sure. So like you mentioned, the app is totally free to download. We've been building this app for over 5 years. And while there's a lot of maps in there, there's a ton of other super robust features. And those are all available at the free level. So you can plan a route, you can organize your data, set points and label them and organize them. Enter coordinates, all all that awesome stuff that usually comes with the, a dedicated GPS, you can use it. The standard membership is $20 a year, and it lets you see up to 50 of those maps. So with the free level, you just have one map. At $20 a year, you get up to 50, 55 maps, and you can download them and view them offline. So that's the level you need to be at if you want to be able to download maps and see them while you're out without cell phone service. And then at the premium level, that's just going to unlock, the extra 200 maps that you're going to get access to, plus the ability to stack the different layers together.
Okay, very good. And I've noticed it's pretty easy to get routes that other people have posted, right? So as overlanders, there's some that people have posted. There's a route that goes from Canada to California. I don't have to pre-drive or pre-figure out what those routes are. Somebody's already put that on there. So another great feature that I like is being able to go to those shared routes. Is that what you call them?
Yep.
Okay. And then I can download those on my map so that I've got those with me.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really easy. And there's a lot of different ways to share. You can share it directly, like app to app. You could share a link to it on the website, so pretty much anybody could see it. Or you could even share them like a special file type called a GPX file that they could open if they didn't have Gaia GPS. They had some other app or some other device. They could import your route into their device, even if you made it in Gaia GPS.
Okay. And then the other thing that I really like is being able to take a picture. So you can have this app open and take the picture. You've got all the coordinates that are built into the picture that I know Apple does and Android does. I'm not sure what other platforms there are, but it puts it in there. So the way that I've been using it is I'll take a picture, which is when I go back to my maps, much easier to remember where that is. Instead of looking at a square with a bunch of squiggly lines, I look at a square that's got a picture of where I was, and then I can quickly and easily remember where that was if that's the one I'm looking for.
Right.
Is there anything else on pictures that you can maybe explain a little bit better than what I can on how that works?
Well, I was going to say, I just think, as you were talking about that, it just brought up this kind of interesting use case we have. You said it's really nice to be able to take the picture and remember where you were, or get back to that spot in a visual way. And because of that, actually, a lot of people who are doing research, especially in biology or in plants or wilderness research, they're using this app to take pictures of species or flora and fauna and document their locations. And so that I just think that's a really interesting use case that you never might think of, that people are using this app for research.
Yep, absolutely. We use that in search and rescue all the time, anywhere from a footprint to a trailhead to clues that we find, and we can quickly and easily document those with the coordinates that go with that.
Awesome. Yeah, a lot of search and rescue organizations do use the app too, and I love hearing about how it can be useful in that line of work.
Yeah. And so with overlanding, kind of the same thing. At the very first of your route, you could take a picture if that's something you want to share with other overlanders, and then they can see where that started and different points along the way. And it all relates to the route that is overlaid on the map. So I think that's just super fantastic. And for our listeners who are overlanders, don't let all the references to hiking steer you in a different direction. In my humble opinion, after using Gaia for well over 3 years, this newest release from Gaia is a hidden gem for overlanders, not just in the US, but anywhere, because of all these features that are built in. Some of the other things that Asha was explaining on the features that are built in, you can change your coordinates. So if somebody gives you a spot to go to, and maybe they give it to you in UTM instead of lat long, you can put that in and then switch it so that it goes to your GPS. Like I use a Garmin GPS, and then you can type in that coordinate. I think for overlanders to follow the route as you're driving, a Garmin GPS or something like that is easier to see as you're driving along the route. And then Gaia GPS is super helpful to be able to find things. So the new feature, actually, is it new? The search in there, is that much better than what it used to be?
Yes. Yeah, it definitely is.
It's not my imagination.
No, it's not your imagination.
Okay. Yeah, and it's super helpful. So you can type things in that you're looking for, whether it be in using coordinates, or whether it be if you're looking for Lost Lake comes to mind. You could type in Lost Lake and then it'll pull that up. Any tips or tricks you've got for using that search function and finding things that are close to you? So I don't type in Lost Lake and the first thing that comes up is Lost Lake in London.
No, I don't. Well, actually important thing to know about the search is you can't really use it offline.
Okay.
So I find it most useful when I'm planning my trip and I'll search for like large areas. And my personal preference is to zoom in on the map and really like dig around and find what's there. A lot of the maps will have right on them like points of interest or like important landmarks like a mine, a quarry, river crossing, you name it. And remember, I'm more of a hiker too, so I'm not going too far one day. So
Sure.
I'm usually like getting real close in on my vicinity and just kind of like scrolling around the map.
Okay. And as overlanders, I notice sometimes when that feature is turned on, it gets a little overwhelming, right? Because there's so many different points of interest. How is it that you can turn those points of interest on or off?
Well, in this case, I think you might be using your Android tablet maybe because that one does have a lot of POIs on it, and you can turn them off. There's one of the menu items in there. You can find your POIs, and you can turn off different categories for them.
Perfect. Okay.
In our iPhone app, we kind of replace those with nicer, less cluttering POIs directly on the map. So specifically Gaia Topo. So if you go and look at Gaia Topo now, it's kind of got these POIs baked in, and they kind of scale bigger or smaller depending on how far in your zoom. So it's a lot less cluttering. It's a lot easier to easier on the eyes.
Okay. Very good. Any other features we should be aware of for overlanders?
Well, I did want to specifically mention the motor vehicle use maps.
Okay.
These things are really cool. The way that we kind of chose to deal with them, we took these U.S. Forest Service roads and imported them into the app as lines on the map, and the lines are color coded, red, yellow, or green, specifically based on how often the roads are traveled. So you could take this map layer and put it on top of anything you prefer, like a topo map or a satellite map, and know what type of road, like ahead of time, what type of road you're about to get into. Being not an off-roading person really myself, when I go up into the national forest near me to go find camping spots, I find this incredibly useful because I'm looking for the roads that are green or yellow, not red. But it might be the opposite for you if you're looking to go on an adventure. Red might be what you want.
I'm looking for the road that does not have a gate that's closed. That's the trick. Right. So, and maybe you've got some other ideas for me, but one of the tricks that I've found to use a tablet and still have the GPS function work is I connect it via Bluetooth with my inReach. Anything else that you've heard that works good if I've got a tablet that doesn't have a GPS chip built into it?
Sure, yeah, and just to point out, in case people listening don't know, like most phones and cellular-enabled iPads and a lot of tablets have their own GPS chip, so that's how the app is showing you where you are, even if you don't have cell phone signal. But like your iPad, if it doesn't have a GPS chip in it, you need to get a Bluetooth GPS device. I often recommend this company called Bad Elf because they make specific handheld Bluetooth GPS devices. Basically just gets the GPS, sends it to your phone, works great, even a little bit higher accuracy than your phone or your tablet would have. They just came out with an actual US or not USB. It plugs right into the power port of your iPhone or your iPad, and it's about an inch by an inch. It's super tiny. I haven't had a chance to test it out, but if anyone has or wants to, it's a lot less expensive than the handheld ones, and I'd be really interested to hear how it works.
Yeah, I'll actually probably pick one of those up. And give me the name again.
Bad Elf is the name of the company.
Bad Elf, like an elf, like Santa Claus elf.
Yes. Yeah, okay. I think that's their logo,
just making
too.
Sure. Oh, sweet. Very good. Okay, so hey, let's wrap things up with some fun facts about you. Do you, when you're on the trail, any favorite drinks you have for the morning to get things started?
Oh, it's got to be coffee. I can't get out of the bed without it.
Very good. You know, I just saw a post earlier today from a couple we did a interview with, and there was a coffee festival, and they had coffee jam. Do you think you'd try that?
Absolutely.
I was thinking, I don't know, but I'm such a coffee person, I would totally get it.
Oh, I live up in Wisconsin, and I've had coffee cheese.
Oh, very good. Okay. Yeah, you would definitely get that. And for you, at night, what's a favorite drink when you're on the trail?
Oh, I like to carry a little bit of whiskey with me if I can.
Nice. I like it. What is a favorite destination you've been to off the beaten path?
So this is tough, actually. This is really tough. I've been a lot of places. I'm a really big, avid hiker. I've been all over the country. Some of my favorite places were the White Mountains in New Hampshire. I've got a favorite hike up there, Franconia Ridge Loop. Highly recommend it. I've recently been to Zion National Park in Utah and did their famous Angel's Landing hike. And that was my favorite hike in the last couple of years, at least. That was amazing.
Okay, great. Give us a quick favorite story you have, or maybe you've been told as it relates to using Gaia GPS.
So the first thing that comes to mind is a story from a couple of years ago. It was the first time I'd heard back from a search and rescue team that uses Gaia GPS about how they used it in a rescue. And it was really exciting to hear. Basically what happened is, they got a call that someone was lost. They got a set of coordinates for where the person was. They plugged them into Gaia GPS and they started going towards that location. And then a couple hours later, their base gave them an updated set of coordinates. They put them in a Gaia GPS, and they realized that the coordinates that their base had were incorrect just by using Gaia to compare their updated location to the location that they got before. So they disregarded the updated set of coordinates from their base and did end up finding the person because of that. And that was just a really great story to hear.
Anything we've missed or anything else you'd like our listeners to know?
Well, I think Overlanding is probably one of the largest growing groups of Gaia GPS users. As someone that didn't know a lot about overlanding in the last year, I've learned a lot about it. And we have a pretty big following of overlanders on Instagram. If anyone wants to follow us over there, we're pretty active and we like to talk a lot with the community. And people are always tagging us in their awesome pictures of their vehicles or on their adventures. So if you want to join us as part of this growing community, definitely go follow us over there.
Okay, very good. And what is the name of your account on Instagram?
At Gaia GPS.
Okay, that makes sense. What is the best way for our listeners to learn more about Gaia GPS? Is it the website at GaiaGPS.com, or is there different ways to connect with you?
You definitely head over to GaiaGPS.com. We got a great help center over there. Making an account is totally free, and you can actually just start playing around with the map right away. You can try looking at some of the maps. You can make a route. And you can always shoot us an email, too, if you have any questions. Our email address is support@GaiaGPS.com. It'll probably come to me or one or two other people. So we're always here answering emails and love to hear from people.
Okay, good. And you've always been very helpful. I think the email chain that we have right now is one of the longest email chains I've ever had. I think it goes back, what, 3? How long have you worked for Gaia?
About 3 years.
3 years? I think it goes back about that long. That's
definitely
awesome.
possible.
Okay. Any more information you'd like to give or useful resources that our listeners should check out?
No, I definitely just come follow us. Like I said, on Instagram, or we're on Twitter too. Definitely give the app a try, and I guess in a couple seconds here, we're gonna give you guys some links that you can get for a great deal if you want to try out the membership.
Yep. And that was my next question. So you had sent us a link that we're going to post on our show notes page. Tell us, when people see that, how does that work for them?
So basically, you can just click the link. It's going to take you to a page where you can choose. There's a couple different membership types. There's member and premium, but you can buy it on a yearly basis, or you can actually buy 5 years all at once if you're not a fan of the reoccurring subscription thing. And it's also going to get you a better deal too. I think the 5-year premium membership is like 40% off what the normal price would be. So once you sign up, that's it. You're all set. You can download the app, log into your account, and start using your membership.
Okay, great. And I would definitely do the 5-year. Just get it. You're going to need maps. Gaia is awesome. I'm just such a big fan of what you're doing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Ashley, thank you. We are so grateful for your time and humbled by providing our listeners such great value. Thank you, and I hope to see you on the trail sometime.
Thank you. It was great being on. I really enjoyed it, and happy trails.
Awesome. Thank you. Cheers. I hope you enjoyed our interview with Ashley from Gaia GPS. There's a lot of mapping apps and options out there. I personally have found Gaia the best overall solution, simply based on the selection of map overlays, being able to download the layers ahead of time, and being able to use the app seamlessly over several devices. And for overlanders, I think their new functionality of routing and being able to easily save and share routes is icing on the cake. If you want to nerd out with the settings, you can select all your coordinate and datum types, compass settings, and there's just a lot more good stuff in there. Equally impressive is Gaia's continual improvements. I was talking to Ashley, there are a lot more features they're working on in 2018 that sound pretty exciting. Check out the link that Ashley gave us. Save yourself some money. Get their premium membership. I know that there's a lot of free map apps out there, and I've used a lot of them. I also use a lot of different, I've got about 3 different weather apps that I use. On the mapping side, Gaia has always been, for the last 3 years, really the only one I ever use. I never even go to the other ones. They've just got so much information packed in there. The one thing that they were missing was the routing for longer trips for overlanding, and now they've got that built in too. And you can print some maps. I'm not totally excited about everything that's there, but it sounds like they're working on making some good improvements there too, because you should always have a paper map as a backup. Be sure to cruise over to our show notes page. Just go to ghtOverland.com, click on podcasts, and then select our interview with Ashley with Gaia GPS. You can get the link there for the special discount that Ashley is giving GHT Overland listeners. So thank you, Ashley. That was awesome. Along with details on each of the features that Ashley highlighted and that we talked about during the episode. If you have any questions or feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Just send an email to ghtOverlandpodcast@gmail.com. Have a great week, and we will see you next week. We have an interview with Jack and Gemma from Australia that is just a ton of fun. Cheers.